Hello, everyone. I'm going to tell a story about two Australia Award scholars who braved starting up a company during the pandemic. And this is a story of Nikki Vergara, who finished her Master of Positive Psychology from University of Melbourne, and myself, John Baluyot, who finished my Masters of Leadership in Monash University. So it all started with a bus ride. Before we went home in December, we decided to go to a trip in Wilson's Promontory. And the only question in both our heads, since we were already friends, what good do we want to pay forward in the country, knowing how great this Australia Awards experience has become for both of us? So really, we just wanted to pay it forward. And the idea that came out was, you have expertise in positive psych. I have expertise in the corporate world, in leadership and strategy. Why don't we combine the two so that we can take care of the well-being of the workforce, because it's really needed. We have so many toxic workplaces. So we were deliberately, before we went home, we started having photo shoots so that we would have pub mats for when we get home from Australia and when we start up our business. When we went back home in January, we said, let's do a strat plan already. Let's do our mission and vision, and let's start enumerating what are the things that we were going to do. And we did all of that. In fact, our mission was to co-create cultures that enhance the well-being of the Filipino workforce. And we think that during that time, we thought it was necessary because for me, as a product of workplace burnout, I think I would appreciate something like this and I would like to work with an organization with this as a mission. But of course, the pandemic came. And as you know, like it stopped a lot of businesses and it even made us think, are we still going to push through with a startup? Nikki and I, when we went home, we didn't have jobs. As scholars, we were expecting to actually be employed by big organizations, knowing that we were educated by Australia's top universities. But we chose to start up instead. It took a lot of time before we got to register our business, before people wanted to pay us for our services because it's a global pandemic. For more than 6 months, we were not even getting minimum wage. That's how bad it was for both of us. However, we were firm. We said, we know what we were going to do. We are going to train and teach people how to lead themselves first so that when they know how to influence others better, they will have the bigger capability to lead cultures. And the cultures that we want are the positive ones that eventually will be sustained in workplaces so that when those positive cultures stay, less people will have toxic workplaces to work in. Until we are now averaging at around 250 to 300 people every month. We are doing 3 webinars, walang palyak. We were also able to create articles out of those webinars so that people who like reading on their own time can also just go to the articles, and they're very short, and learn something about well-being. And companies can share it to their employees. But more importantly, when it comes to leading others, what we did was we found the inspiration from people who wanted to have an internship with us to mentor others. And when we started mentoring our first 1 or 2 interns, those interns created an internship program called the Culture Changers. And this is now on its 7th batch. And this internship has actually become a safe haven for a lot of young leaders to stay in. So it sustained itself. We gave them so much autonomy that they were handling a lot of our courses. Our interns are designing our courses. They are even facilitating some of them. They were writing our articles. And they were so inspired because they can be who they are. And we appreciate them based on what their strengths are. One of them even said this, that apparently all it took was for someone to believe in me. And somehow I got a room full of them. And you know what? These interns, because we only have limited slots for mentoring, Nikki and I, they are the cream of the crop of the top universities in the Philippines. Two of them even created a program called Positive Young Leaders of the Philippines, where we were able to create a summit attended by 130 people so that 10 positive leaders from all around the Philippines were able to share their stories on positive leadership. Those were judged and coached by our Australia alumni community led by Mr. Jose de Colongo, and of course around 9 other Australia Award scholars whose vision is to actually look at a new narrative for Filipino leadership. Something that's not corrupt, something that's not negative, something that's not to be embarrassed about. And that's why a lot of these leaders really jump in and contribute. For positive workplaces, to date, we've already done 270 trainings in just a span of a year and a half. We have an organic following of 10,000 in social media where we are able to train around 14,000 plus learners, and we intend to continue. We have a lot of clients from big companies to medium-sized companies to very well-known NGOs where we help them come up up with their own annual plans and their own competency frameworks. And we also were able to do a lot of well-being and digital learning webinars with some of the biggest government agencies in the country. And all of those were because of our mission that we wanted to co-create cultures that enhance the well-being of the Filipino workforce. And this mission right now has matured into an actual vision statement, which is we want a nation of positive organization. We don't want a nation wherein hate is being propagated and people are profiting from hate. We want a nation of positive organizations where people are competent in those organizations, where leaders are mindful of how empathic they are with their own teams, where leaders are mindful of how they cultivate cultures of learning, and climates of psychological safety. That's our vision. And all of those started from a bus ride of two personal purpose converging, made possible by an opportunity that I personally am super grateful for. Had it not been for the good that the Australia Awards opportunity was able to give to me, I don't think I will have had that strong motivation to want to pay it forward and do an advocacy like this. So I hope that's able to inspire a little bit and help you push forward, even if sometimes it's a global pandemic, it's a global crisis. There are so many opportunities and there's so much hope if your purpose is whole and if you have a lot of help from the people who you have valued along the way. So thank you so much for listening to